Hi there, you guys. I am back. I wanted to thank all of you who watched my autoimmune neutropenia video. That is something that has been really on my mind for a while because so many Facebook groups have helped me out. And sometimes it's hard to connect with others like me. So thank you for kind of helping share and get that word out, and continue to do so. Today I'm talking about dysautonomia, and it's something I'm still constantly learning about because I've had symptoms of it since 8th grade, but I was not diagnosed until about 3 years ago. And actually, I was the one that went to my doctor wanting a diagnosis. So I will tell you my story, but dysautonomia has to do with the autonomic nervous system not functioning correctly. And there's different types of dysautonomia, just like there's different types of autoimmune diseases. So for my dysautonomia, my specific type is called, this is the one I can't pronounce, postural orthostatic tachycardial syndrome. So I just call it POT syndrome, and that's how it's commonly referred to. Now, POT syndrome is common enough that I know at least 5 other women in my life, just from school, work, like not from Facebook groups or online. Like, these are just women in my life who, just like me, were not diagnosed until they were in their 20s or 30s, and just like me, have had these symptoms for years and years and years. So I want to tell my story, but for those of you that I do know out there, please share your story. Some of you I know post on your Facebook walls, and that's been really helpful to me. So I hope you know that, and please feel free to post in this group or in the comments. So for me, in 8th grade, my symptoms started out with me just passing out on my runs. And I am very lucky. Most people with POT syndrome, they pass out and they don't get a warning. My body has always warned me. So I can at least go, I've got about 4 or 5 minutes where I know I'm going to sit down. Now, the question that other people ask me is, why can't you stop it then? Or is there a way that you can stop it? And I still have not figured out a way, but I'm just so grateful that I've got those 4 or 5 minutes to get myself in a safe spot before I do pass out. That's something that is very rare, and that's very fortunate for me. But in 8th grade, I would start doing runs with cross country, or like after like a hard workout, especially in the heat, I would just, my head, I would feel like that cold, like, oh my gosh, something is not right. Something is not right. And then within 15, 20 minutes, I'd be back on my feet and trying to run again. And a lot of it was because if I told the doctor, if I told really anyone, it had to do with puberty. Oh, it was puberty. I was growing up. My body was changing. Yeah, my body was changing, but there is something wrong if you are passing out. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was weird, because that's what I was told. It was puberty. And I'd never gone through puberty before. So, woo, puberty means passing out. Puberty also meant for me that I would get really, really crazy rashes in the shower. So I don't do well with heat, which is funny because I love summer and I love the heat, but my body does not like it. So I get red, purple blotches whenever I'm either out in the sun for too long, or if I'm if I'm even by a hot tub, like I don't even have to step in it, and I'm like red, purple. I will try to take a picture and post it on the wall this week, especially with the cold weather outside. When I go into the shower at night, it's like a rainbow. It's all different colors. And once again, this was something that was 100% normal. So all these things that were normal about me, I was continuing to either, I would just mention it to doctors, but not really it was oh, it's normal. And I would say that too. So of course they're not gonna look at me like there's anything else. So as they're diagnosing me with autoimmune neutropenia and other different diseases, they weren't gonna say, oh, she's got weird rashes. Oh, she's passing out. This is something we need to actually talk about and reflect on. It actually finally took me, there was one time in college, and I was getting so fed up because I knew that there was more to my umbrella of diagnoses that I needed to get. And so I actually wrote down a list of all the things that were normal about me that other people had mentioned in college were not normal. My roommate, my first roommate, shout out to you, she actually, I thought it was the weirdest thing ever because she actually started screaming when I got out of the shower. And she was like, "What is wrong with your legs? That's not normal. That's not okay." And I was like, chill out. It's perfectly normal. I'm always like this. Okay, for her to react like that and for me to react like that, that's not fair to me. That I have lived with something so long that it was, oh, whatever, it's normal. It's not normal. It's not okay. And I'm so grateful because even though it took me 4 years to realize that what she said, it planted something inside my brain so that in the future I would use it and say, she told me it wasn't normal, so I'm going to write this down. And I actually looked up weird spots on legs or weird rashes, and I came across this lady on Facebook. This is why I love blogs. This is why I love using the internet to connect with others about stories. She had the same exact blot. I didn't know anyone was like me like that. It looked dead on like how mine look after the shower. She wrote it like probably 5-6 years ago, maybe more. I'm so grateful for her. So this is why I'm sharing stories like this, because if it were not for her, I would have never connected any puzzle piece. So I went to my doctor. I was going to an autoimmune specialist, and I actually went to him and I said, I need to be tested for POTS syndrome. And he said, oh, no, I don't think so. Like, you're fine. And I was like, I would like to be tested. I have a gut feeling. So they did a heart rate test. So everyone's got a little bit different way to test, but basically they would test my heart rate while I was sitting down versus standing up versus walking versus running. And I'm very grateful I get to run. Not everyone with POTS syndrome gets that because most are in wheelchairs. So thank goodness. But my heart rate would jump so high in between. It'd go from being so low while sitting to just like I was working extra hard. I was working overtime, and my heart rate was not able to slow down for about a minute or so. So once again, I've got more moderate symptoms, and I'm really fortunate for that. Now, this is actually very interesting because once I was diagnosed, my symptoms got worse because of what I did to try to help it. So my doctor, he started putting me on a prescription that actually made it worse. And when I went to Ecuador, and I was having at first I thought it was like from being in Ecuador, like in a different country. Like I thought that maybe it was like I'm so sensitive to food, maybe it was the food I was eating. And when I got back to the States, I realized it had to be like the only thing that changed was the prescription. So I was actually passing out without any idea, and I was just sick. Like I was just like tingly and sick. I don't know if anyone with POTS syndrome feels me, like my pinkies all the way up, just like this side of my arm just gets tingly, and that's when I'm like, oh, it's awful. It's not a fun feeling. And it's all day. Like my face would be tingly while I was like in class and I couldn't feel it. Like I couldn't feel it to like eat at lunch. So I stopped that prescription. And then he suggested saline infusions, which if you are someone with POTS syndrome that is doing saline infusions and it is working for you, good. That is awesome. For me, it does not work. My veins were so small that like anytime I get an IV, it is the most miserable thing ever. And I had like a really bad day with POTS syndrome, and actually my mom came with me. I wanted someone to talk to while I was doing it, and it was one of the worst, like it was the worst pain in my life. It was awful, and I feel so bad that my mom was there to see it. They tried to stick it in both of my arms and both of my hands, and they burst each and every nerve. And I couldn't feel some of my nerves for about 4 or 5 months after that because of where they were poking and prodding at it. And that's when I decided that there was no pain worth seeing not only my mom trying to like tell the nurses not to do that anymore, or me finally realizing that I deserved more. That was awful. But there are some people that is life and death. Some people have ports, so they have that saline all the time. Kudos. You need to do that because that is what's right for you. It was not right for me. And I figured that out in the most painful way ever. And so I said, you know what? I was doing fine the past 10 years. So instead I decided to just do extra salt. And you know what? That works perfect for me. I rarely pass out. And when I do, I get that warning, like when I was in 8th grade where I was always warned. I never feel like I'm always able to function almost 100%, just with like so much, I put so much sodium and so much salt in, but that's all it takes. And on my bad days, like if I'm like, oh, I'm just feeling lightheaded, I wear compression sacks. And those have been really, really helpful. I actually got compression socks from one of my friends growing up who has POTS syndrome as well, and those are my go-to ones. So thank you for that. They're perfect on those days when I'm saying, you know what, I want to be that 100% teacher. I don't want to be sitting down today. I want to be doing jumping jacks and running around with my kids. I wear those sacks. And a lot of people will ask me questions like, oh, you're able to drive, you're able to do this. I am, because my symptoms are more mild when it comes to this this part of my crazy health journey, and I am very grateful for that. I know people in my life with POTS syndrome that drive and live a normal life like me. I have some that need a wheelchair and need to be on the saline port or have an IV through their system once or twice a day, and I have others right in between. I've heard some stories of like moms who are really struggling because they have to make ends meet, but they're almost bound to a wheelchair. And how do you function as a single mom in a wheelchair with kids, trying to get to work, but also not having the energy for either because you don't have the money, but you also don't have that that physical health. So that's why I'm out here. I want us to have a community because all of us have different symptoms for even the same diagnosis. Now, the one other thing that I want to tell you about POTS syndrome is it is mainly women. There are men that are affected by dysautonomia in general, but when I was at my doctor's, he said that within the past year, so he said previously POTS syndrome was very like hush-hush, or not many people knew about it, but many people are now studying on it because he said he had a handful of women in between the ages of about 17 and 27, like right in that age where I was and still am. He said that there was over a handful or 2 handfuls, probably like 10 girls worth of his patients that had tested and had passed to be diagnosed for POTS syndrome within the past year. So he said the only thing other than us being young girls is that we were all overachieving, we overexerted our energy, we overdid everything, and so he was wondering if that was a connection, and I do see that as well with with all the friends, especially, whether you're the mom that's trying so hard, or the teacher that's working hard with our kindergarteners, or whether you're working hard to get A+ in your grad school class. There's so many different ways that we work so hard and so extra on our bodies, and so maybe POTS syndrome is a part of that puzzle piece. So thank you for listening to me rant about POTS syndrome. And next time I am going to be talking about interstitial cystitis, which is my painful bladder syndrome, vulvodynia, and endometriosis. So all of the not fun lady things that have affected me and that I want to share with you. And I also am going to have a friend share her experience because she is different symptoms for me, same diagnosis, different symptoms. And it's fun to hear her story. And I still learn from her, even though we're different, because sometimes I do end up needing it. So thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving. I am thankful that you are all listening. Have a good day.